Ben, it is so good to have you on the podcast. So Ben is one of my besties, guys. We have been meeting. Well, I don't know when you joined the mastermind group actually, but for years, he's a part of a mastermind group that meets every Tuesday. And I've known Ben for quite a while. We actually hung out this summer in North Dakota, took his girls to the state fair. And yeah, today Ben is going to be interviewing me. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Lauryn. It's great to be here. It's such an honor, honestly. I want to say, everyone, Lauryn is just one of my best friends. I love hanging out with her, and you guys have a great gal as your common host on the show. She's amazing, and she was good enough to meet my girls and I up at our state fair in North Dakota and hang out for the day. And we got you probably know that Lauryn has an Olympic background, and one of my girls got in a foot race with her, and the other one stayed behind and shared this little. She's like, "Dad, I don't think Lauryn was running as fast as she could because Lauryn let my little girl win." And so anyhow, it was super, super special. They almost talk about it on a daily basis. It was a lot of fun.
Little do they know that retired Lauryn was huffing and puffing, really working
right.
at it.
Yeah, we might have to bring that up as part of some of our notes for later in the show, right? You know, we're talking, I think, about budgeting today. Lauryn, what's going on?
Yeah, for sure. We are talking all things budget, and not just all things budget, but my budget. So, I definitely very much value transparency and being very open with my audience. And there's tons of episodes. If you're a new listener, you can go back and listen to my money story. You can listen to some of the goals that I set, all kinds of different things. I'd love to do solo episodes where I share information, but I thought it'd be really cool to kind of just update you all on kind of how I spent in 2021 and how I look at and reflect on what my spending is. And, to know that like, hey, I'm a financial planner, so I got some expertise, but also like my budgeting process is not perfect. So yeah, we'll be talking all things budgeting, but I think first we should get to know you just a little bit more. People are like, who is this guy beyond your mastermind buddy? Who is this guy beyond the state fair?
So tell us where you're from. They need to know the face behind the beard, right? Yeah,
they need to know the face behind the beard. And if they're listening, they don't even know that you have a beard until now.
Oh, sorry. Well, I have a beard, folks, if you're not catching on. A pretty full one, I'm told. So, although it's got some white whiskers popping up here and there. Yeah, well, I'm Ben Martinek. I'm a founder of a few businesses. One's a financial planning business. The other one's a tax business. And been in financial planning and financial services now for a decade. Although I only came into this as a career change. Previously, I'm going way back when I'd studied, had spent some time becoming a pastor, or I'm ultimately a Catholic, so I was studying to be a priest in the seminary, and it's called religious life, and got introduced to some high-minded topics like philosophy. And short of it is, after I transitioned out of that, I went on to get a master's degree in philosophy, and spent a good amount of my early life studying the great intellectual thought of the Western tradition, going back for the last 2,000 years. So some 60 credit hours in philosophy. It's kind of a lot now. Now I go to look back at it all. But what's fun about my story, I think, is I was married and went into the workforce shortly after, right at the height of the Great Recession in 2008. And you might be no surprise to you, but finding jobs with a philosophy background aren't easy to come by. And so my wife, is that a surprise? Yeah. No,
super shocked.
Oh my gosh. Wow. No one wants to just hire you with that, huh?
What do you even do? Like, what do you even become? Like, what are some job titles associated with philosophy?
Well, I think we need to expand on this a little bit and just talk about a liberal arts education, because, liberal arts on the whole isn't, a career or it isn't specifically minded to any sort of certification, like maybe becoming an engineer or physician or a chemist, where you're studying really technical scientific matters. You're generally studying broader themes of what it is to be a human being. So you get into languages and literature and history and, philosophy and just politics. And so you become a well-rounded human being over the course of a liberal arts education. And then the takeaway from that is, well, how do you want to apply that learning you have to some career? So it's pretty open-ended. Like the direct career path for someone who's got a philosophy background, it's probably just go and become a college professor and teach philosophy and be an academic.
That's literally what I was thinking. I was like, I don't know anything other than professor.
Well, unfortunately, so here we go. We'll talk about the markets. This is my first introduction into that. So I thought, oh, that's what I'll do too. Well, apparently I wasn't the only one thinking of this solution. And then when I was at grad school, I come to find out I was getting out of the philosophy books a little bit and came to find out that for every opening, there was about 100 applicants of folks all equally qualified and equally having PhDs, and all for one job. So the odds of getting actually that teaching position are pretty hard to come by in liberal arts, just generally speaking.
And
So
even worse in
yeah, I mean,
2008.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Good luck. Yeah, really, really, I mean that. Good luck. Yeah, so no, we became, of all things. So what do, Lauryn? You become an over-the-road truck driver with your newly married wife, and you drive a truck
Wait,
for
you and
two and
your
a
wife
half
were truck
years.
driving
Yeah,
then.
we did. Yeah, both of us for 2.5 years. Yeah. So you want to talk about like getting hardcore? That's what we did. So we lived literally together in like an 8 by 8 foot box for 2.5 years and paid down a
And you're
bunch of
still
student loan debt.
married.
We are, yes, thankfully. So yeah, I was talking about a test. So yeah, we're talking about a big test. My folks of ours talk, it was highly concentrated time together. So in the early years, people would be like, "Wow, 1 year of being married for Ben and Deb is like 3 or 4 years for the rest of us." Right? So
Right.
like dog years, right?
Exactly. It's a different
um,
scale to measure upon. So then how did you find your way to financial planning from truck driving?
well, Dave Ramsey really was the story for that. I had been introduced to Dave before we got on the road, and I was introduced to a few other things. I was already thinking about personal finance and investing and the like before we became truck drivers. It's actually one of the reasons why we became truck drivers. I was thinking along those lines of what was going to take money wise to turn our situation around, because we had a lot of student loan debt, and we had some credit card debt. We had car payments, and we could barely make our monthly bills. It really was a stressful time, especially at the very same time it's the great financial crisis, and so you can't find jobs to save your life. And we just got married, so hello, a
Right.
lot of
All
a
the
lot of
things were
fun.
happening, literally all of
I
them.
know. No, I mean I know what sleepless nights are like. I had them, and we went through them, and we both had them. I mean, we were stressed. It wasn't easy, but we came up with a plan, and we started to follow that plan, and bit by bit we executed on it, and we made progress and turned things around, paid all that debt off, and eventually transitioned into financial planning as a career choice. And I've been doing that for 10 years, ultimately through we really became intrigued in this by listening, not just intrigued, but really motivated and committed to it by listening to Dave Ramsey pretty much every day for 3 hours a day, just one call after another call every day. We'd even record them so we could listen to them on the weekends if that doesn't just sound crazy to you. But it made us just crazy committed and motivated. Like we were paying attention to every dollar we spent because we wanted to put as much as we could towards those student loans to change the situation around it. Yeah, I mean, when Dave would drop suggestions every now and again about maybe becoming a certified financial planner if you wanted to help people in that way, and so that was really what started to move me down this pathway.
That is super, super cool. People are either in the love Dave Ramsey boat or the meh, I could leave him because he's kind of polarizing boat. But I think, it's undisputable the idea that he can help people that are in a really hard situation. Like you said, find the motivation to get out of that situation and give them some baseline foundational tools to be able to do so. So super dope that he was able to help you. And then you were like, let's take it to level 10. I'm going to become a financial
There
planner.
we go. Right, and that's it's crazy, but it's now what I do for a living. Got a couple good successful businesses, and we've had our ups and downs and all that. Certainly triumphs and struggles or defeats. Our story isn't any different from anyone else's. But I don't want to steal the show too much, Lauryn. We got to talk about your budget, isn't that we're coming here? I mean, what happened for you in 2021?
Yes, yes, we are here to talk all things budgeting, but it is, I think, a perfect segue. Financial planners are humans too. Like you just told a
Uh,
whole story about all the different things you've encountered, financially on your journey to becoming a financial planner. And that's kind of what I wanted to share about today was the idea that, I have a budget and I do it pretty well for the most part. I'm kind of, proud of my budget, but at the same time, like, it's not perfect. So there's some things that could be improved. And I just want to share like some of the numbers, some of the thoughts around it, and help people think about what their process may look like in budgeting. But one of the main things I hope that people take away from listening today is the idea that it is absolutely necessary to have some sort, form, or fashion of a budget. You have to track to some extent what is coming in and what's going out, in order to be able to set goals, to understand, like, how am I going to reach these things that are my visions? How am I going to spend in line with my values, and to constantly be recalibrating to use money as a tool to live the life you want. You actually have to have something that says, like, this is what's coming in and this is what's going out. So yeah, I'll leave it to you. Go ahead.
Well, Lauryn, what do you think happens? I'm curious, so what happens if you don't budget, or what have you seen when people don't budget? I mean, at one time we didn't budget. I know I have a bit of an answer I could share there, but I'd like to see what do you think happens? What's the downside to not budgeting?
The downside is that you're like kind of so tongue-tied. The downside is that you're ignorant to what is going on in your financial life, and it's a lot harder to reach your goals. There's tons of people out there that are like, I'm great at making money, but I have no idea how to save it. I have no idea, what happens above and beyond that. So budgeting is not for broke people. Budgeting is not, for rich people. It is for everyone. And when you don't have one, you have no clue about where you're going. There's no path, there's no plan, there's no destination. And so how are you ever going to be able to accomplish anything in your financial journey if you don't actually have a clue of what you're trying to accomplish, or what you have to be able to accomplish it?
Well, and I would just like to piggyback on that. I would even go so far as to say, if you go and accomplish something great without any awareness or paying attention to it, which is what budgeting fundamentally is about, and really financial planning is about, you lose the accomplishment. You don't even realize you've accomplished something, and you can't reward or congratulate yourself for the good hard work that you're doing. And so, I mean, I consistently see people, I mean, we can think of these in extremes in a binary fashion, not to say that this is where everyone falls, but it's just an easier way to kind of construe, give some construction to the thought. But, people either tends to spend too much or they tend to save too much. And, people who spend too much, the struggle here is, you're not putting any money away, and all their money goes, they don't have anything to show for all the hard work. The money just goes right back out the door. And it's like, gosh, what do I got to show for this? But on the other hand, we have folks who can just as much struggle to save too much. Mm-hmm. And, they're great at throwing seeds out and harvesting and the like, but then all they do is harvest. They just keep saving and saving and saving, and maybe too much. They put too much stress and pressure on themselves, and it's like, good, go on a vacation or go treat yourself. You have the freedom to do so, and that's right. And it would be good for you. Actually, you need to reward yourself for your hard work, but your natural tendency might not to do that because you're afraid. You're still concerned that you haven't set enough money aside, and a budget, ironically enough, is needed there not to get things under control. It's to open things up and say, look, you're going to be fine. You can spend this money. It's not going to hurt you.
Amen. Hallelujah. You guys see why I picked Ben, the philosopher, to interview me?
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Just AKA there we go. Now I feel touched, Lauryn. That all that money I spent to go and have a philosophy background it's been worth it.
It's coming to full use today. But you did. You brought up a really good point in the idea that, like, you have no way to measure progress, or that the fact that you're not doing well, and the idea of, like you said, that person that is saving way too much, not having the budget will keep you in bondage. And so you're a great saver. This is a real thing. We talk a lot about people being spenders and all the negative connotations related to, money and spending and debt and all those sorts of things. But there are definitely people out there that are saving way too much, and are, prisoners to their saving because they don't have a way to actually track their finances, to understand, like, oh, I am on track for retirement. I am on track for this other goal. And like, I still have an emergency fund and there's still money left over. Let me go on vacation and feel really good about that. Like, go live my life. It is very freeing.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah, very freeing to know what's going on in your finances. So,
yes, I think that's why we budget, isn't it? I mean, so how do you budget? I suppose maybe to get this a little more practical or concrete. I mean, we've got some numbers here that Lauryn shared with me for the details of, as she's wanting to review the year. Yeah, I'm happy to go and get into that, Lauryn, in a moment. I'd like to review them with you, but just before we get underway, like, how did you come up with those numbers? How did you know that this data is accurate? How are you doing your tracking?
Yes, I am a fan of You Need a Budget. Look, maybe I can try to get them to sponsor this episode,
Let's
right?
go for it. Yeah.
We've never had ads on our podcast, but I am truly a fan. And it really was a game changer for me as I was going on my financial journey, becoming a financial planner. A lot of my journey was trying to understand my own finances. So I was taking these CFP courses, but it was really to teach myself what to do with my own funds. And somewhere along the way, someone shared the resource of You Need a Budget, which is not, specific to certified financial planning. But it's a cool budgeting app that allows you to be able to account for every dollar that's coming in, set goals, really understand and categorize your expenses. And once you get the program down, like I said, one of the things like, oh my goodness, you want me to tell you I spent $3 on a cheeseburger today and $2 on this and so on and so forth. And people are like, that sounds so tedious. It's a mindset shift. It takes me about 15 minutes to update a budget that I haven't, looked at all month. So sometimes I get a little bit behind. I try to do it weekly, which takes like 5 minutes. I have four budgets. That's the other thing. Um, but it doesn't take a lot of time, and I really love the tool. And we use apps and softwares and technology for so many things nowadays. I think it's important that we're using it for productivity, and it's a really easy way for me to be able to track and understand my expenses. And now, like I said, I have years of data to be able to understand my spending as well.
Sure. And, I mean, budgeting can be tedious. It doesn't have to be. I mean, there's certainly things that have been done to minimize the tediousness of it, because if we are going transaction by transaction, who loves entering all of that? Although thankfully a lot of it could be automated, and YNAB does that. But, I will say there is something powerful at the same time to have each of those transactions captured and for you to be knowing exactly where that money's going, and for you to be like, man, I do spend a lot, or boy, you're not as quick to pull out that card, whether it's a debit card or a credit card, to go spend some money. If you got to go and put that down, if for no other reason, you don't want to go and spend the time to go now have to put this transaction away. And so it tends to, if spending too much is your struggle, there's a value in tracking all those transactions, as tedious as it might be, because it's going to start to tell you, hey, boy, where's your money going? And you're going to be a little more guarded about spending that money and whipping that card out to go buy whatever impulsive decision might be, back and knocking at the door.
Accountability is key. And that is one of the things, even when we think about exercise and all these other kind of like goals that everybody sets on an annual basis, like if there's no accountability, it's really hard for you. You're just having willpower in and of itself is not enough. And what a budget does is provide that accountability. I have to go back and say, ooh, I spent $3 on a cheeseburger, or I spent $15 on a cheeseburger, because that's a thing nowadays. And now you're like, oh, like that feels painful. Like next time I'm gonna buy the $4 cheeseburger instead.
There you
But
go.
yeah, the accountability and the awareness around knowing what you're spending is going to act as a form of accountability. And it's been great for me.
Yeah, me too. I'm a fan of YNAB, folks, as well. I've been using it for a long time, and you definitely a learning curve to it. You won't necessarily pick it up right away. It takes some time, have some patience and persistence, but it's really worthwhile. I'd never live my life without YNAB. It's really just changed. Clarity and peace of mind are probably the two biggest items, and just planning. It's really, really helpful to plan because one of the questions we ask as financial advisors is trying to figure out how much people spend and what's going on in their situation. And we can't start to project things out as to where someone's trajectory is going, or what's it looking like, until we get into the numbers and we have some hard data. And so you can't plan without having those numbers. But now that you can have a plan, and you can insert that into your situation, and you can begin looking ahead and say, like, well, if I accomplish A and then I accomplish B and C and work my way through this, I can get all the way to Z, and I can see the steps of how this is going to work and how this is going to come together. And what can be a rather mysterious and overwhelming and intimidating process is now really, I mean, it's just as easy as ABC. I mean, we're going to take it one step at a time, and this becomes a very achievable goal. Wouldn't you think, Lauryn, have you found budgeting just to be really helpful or instrumental as part of your own creation of your plans?
Yes, super duper important. I mean, so often, like I said, the narratives are a lot around investing, investing, investing. And people are just like, hey, I'm coming to you because I need to invest. And you do investing, right? And it's like, well, what are we investing for? And they're like, well, because I got to make my money, make money. And it's like, well, what does that mean to you? And it's ultimately people are looking for freedom from, feeling in bondage to having to go to work, earn the paycheck, to go to work, to earn the paycheck, et cetera. And then there's this idea of like, I don't want to have to work forever, which is often referred to as retirement. But how am I going to tell you when you can retire if I don't know how much do we need to spend in retirement? How much are you spending right now? How much can we save? That all goes back to the budgeting piece of things. So it is a huge part of any planning process.
Yeah, it's honestly, it tends to be a weakness in our own plans is that we can nail down almost all the other items, but the thing that we can struggle with clients to get them to nail down is their budgeting. And for the ones who budget, it's no big deal. We can nail that right down. But the ones who don't want to budget, it's like, well, it's a question mark. I mean, we can come, we can reverse engineer it, as one might say, and come make an educated guess as to what we think it must be based on other variables or factors. But boy, it really just is a difference maker if we can just simply know for sure actually what you're spending your money on and how much and what seems to be consistent and reasonable and realistic. And so, let's use that as a pivot point, Lauryn, because, we have some numbers shared for you, to us from you.
We're getting into the details,
I know.
guys.
Oh, boy, watch out. Here we go.
Rubber is meeting the road. Here we go.
It's getting a little steamy here. Watch out. I'm going to open up the collar. Yeah. So... Yeah, so you had some plans for 2021, and it looks like we got some money coming in the account, money coming out. I'll leave you to share how much of that is if you'd like. And I suppose in just a general survey, as we start to get into these numbers, folks, Lauryn set some goals. She achieved some of those goals fully. Some of them she achieved partially. Some other goals she achieved not so well, we'll say. And then, maybe lo and behold, there were some goals that she didn't even know that she had that came up, and it's like, oh, the unexpected goal. I need to handle this because it's life is something's popped up in life, and I need to give this attention. So, yeah, well, Lauryn, why don't you share with us a little bit? Just how did the year shake out? What came in, what came out, and what do you feel went well? What didn't go so well?
Yeah. So I'll start by the what came in, what came out part of things. So, total amount that came in was $66K into my budget, and what went out was 64. And people are like, oh my God, you spent all your money. Well, savings is a part of the overall strategy here. So that's one thing to consider. But I think one of the things that's important is to, like I said, have those numbers and to know and to understand what does it look like, because you have like a gross income from somewhere. If you're a W-2 employee, Uncle Sam takes some of that money, your 401k takes some of that money. And sometimes it's really hard to understand, like, oh, well, I only brought home this much. And if you didn't save any of what you brought home, you spent it all. So I had to make more than 66K in order for 64 to be able to go out. But that's my actual spending for the various things. And the other thing is too, is like entrepreneurially, it's sometimes really hard to track expenses. So, I will say that, like I said, I mentioned there was 4 budgets before, that this account that I'm referring to, this is all my personal spending. So money comes into the business accounts in various capacities. And then I pay myself a set amount in order to get it into this personal budget and, and then spend accordingly, save accordingly, et cetera, so on and so forth. And I just think it's really hard sometimes with entrepreneurs to figure out like, oh, well, how do I stabilize my income? Well, first you have to know kind of what your baseline expenses are and then kind of build a budget around it. So that definitely helps me a lot in reaching my savings goals, because if there's a flat amount coming in, no matter what, I know I have to work within those parameters. And if I'm earning much better than that, then I have a lot more money to be able to save, because it's sitting in my business account. So it's not allowing me to be able to increase my lifestyle unless I actively, intentionally go out and like stick my hand in the cookie jar. So yeah, I got I have multiple different streams of income, if you will. I do student loan planning. I run a financial company just like Ben. We are fee-only certified financial planners. I do a lot of speaking and consulting, and I also my Airbnb. So
that's like, right. You got a rental, don't you?
Right. So those are all the kind of various ways that things come in. So there's a lot of moving parts, which is why there's, budgeting is a key piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, just talking about that business income piece, I've come to think of business work a lot like a whiskey distillery, where a lot of stuff goes into the distillery, and only a little bit comes out.
Right. So,
you're like, wait a second, I thought I was putting so much in. Why isn't more coming out in the finished product?
Right. Like, literally have 4 jobs, and I'm talking about 66K of income. It doesn't sound as glamorous anymore, does it, guys?
No, yeah. What the heck? No, I mean, I can talk about my gross revenue numbers, but that's not exactly all coming home to me in my pocket for sure,
Right.
right? No, but you got to work with what comes out and the plan and really partition and assign that amount. So it looked like you were pretty good, Lauren. I mean, you only had 66,000 come in, and you assigned really 64,000. So it looks like there's $2,000 if my math is correct here. I didn't go. I did liberal arts, not mathematics, folks. But you got a $2,000 difference here. You're going on a party. We got 2,000 left unassigned. I mean, I think something needs to happen with that money, right?
Right. YOLO. Drink something tonight, everybody.
I'm going to Laura's.
What's funny is that, like you said, we talk about the budgeting process and like, how these apps and things can really help you. I checked my account this morning and it was like $2,500. So like it matches up to kind of how I'm operating in the moment. Like I like to keep a buffer. I don't want my account to get down to $0, but even in the regular monthly spending that's happening right now, there's this kind of constant buffer, and then anything that's coming above and beyond that is somehow, some way going out to various things. So, yeah.
Right. Well, now, as Lauryn was suggesting, I mean, she's saying all this money came out, which it did. It didn't stay behind in the checking account or the business account, but not all that just went out the door to be spent either. I'm sure we had a portion of it go into taxes because the tax man always gets his cut, and I know how that works because I help people complete their taxes. I probably know it a little too well, unfortunately. But you had a pretty good amount going towards savings. You put how much did you put away in the 401k?
Yes, I was able to get to the maximum of the 401k, and it was hard. I'm not gonna lie. This year it was hard because, like I said, spending fluctuated. Speaking engagements weren't as big, or they're unpredictable for one, but they weren't as big as I expected them to be. They were not as plentiful as they were in 2020. 2020, I think I did 22 speaking engagements. So life was pretty good in that regard. And so I set some pretty lofty savings goals. I think it was in 2019. So I'm trying to do $50,000 a year for 3 years in a row. And in 2021, I did not make it. I didn't make it, guys. I did get the 19.5 into the 401k, which is great, but I did not hit that 50k savings goal. So like, you're not always going to be perfect, which means like now this year I got to go like save more than 50k somehow, some way. So anybody want to be a client? We're winning.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. I need to save some more money. Can you help me out here? Help a gal out, folks. Here we go. Let's. You'll love Lauryn. She's great. No, I think that's part of you make plans and then things change, and they have a saying: you make plans and God laughs. Certainly within our circles, isn't that the truth, right? So,
right.
But we make adjustments, and I think part of the broader financial plan is. It's obviously great to maybe hit that $50,000 savings goal. Do we have to hit it? What are your other goals that you're wanting to have? I mean, this is really just a smaller goal. That's part of a larger goal. We're saving this money so we can usually achieve something else. Have you shared, Lauryn? I mean, what's as part of setting 50,000 aside, because that's not a small amount. I mean, what's the larger goal that you're working towards?
Yeah. So if you go back probably a lot of episodes, like I said, if you're an avid listener, I am trying to basically FIRE. So FIRE stands for financial independence, retire early. And it's not so much that I'm a big proponent of the FIRE movement, but, once I learned about it and learned, kind of where I was financially, because I hadn't really, like I said, taken a good inventory to understand, like, what am I trying to accomplish here? I realized that I was $150,000 short of being able to feel financially independent. So that means you're able to cover your expenses with the amount that you have, saved up in investment accounts. And if you were to pull from those investment accounts at a 4% rate going forward, that you would be okay. And so that is like a number I just wanted to hit more. So not because I'm planning to actually retire, but just to be able to say like, okay, like I don't have to do any of these things if I don't want to. And I feel pretty financially free right now in the way that I'm managing my expenses and my income and things like that. But I would love to be able to say that I can cover my expenses life-wise going forward, and that, I have the freedom to do that and to be able to talk about it with people. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm in a similar pathway. I don't know if I'm saving or we're set to save $50,000 a year. I think you're a step ahead of me on that, Laura. Maybe 2 steps. Not more than that, though. It's just 2 steps.
I will say, too, the 50,000 came because I'm going to turn 40. So it was like, oh, I got 3 years to do this. Like,
let's get her done.
But if it doesn't happen in 3 years, then hey.
No, and so I mean, as we're considering, I mean, this part of saving is we have to say no to other things maybe we'd like to do today. It's they say this is current consumption. That's economic speak, but we have to decide: do we want to spend this money today and buy something only, or go on vacation or a nicer car or whatever it might be,
Mhm.
or do we put it aside and try to get it to grow and achieve this other goal? And so there's these trade-offs. If you are saving, what's that goal that you're saving towards? How important is that to you? Where does it stand in your priority list? And is it worth maybe some of the sacrifices that you need to make it happen? I would say, generally speaking, yes, it is. But yeah, part of budgeting and financial planning is to help figure out where these line up. What's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in terms of our priorities. But that aside, so you got some money aside, and you're working towards your goals. So maybe we need to get you to deny a few more spending, not as much spending, Lauryn, so you can put more money away so you can achieve this goal if that's where you want it to be, if that's the bigger priority.
All right. I hear where you're going with this.
Okay.
I gotta tighten the buckle a little bit.
That's right.
Thanks for the accountability.
Speaking of tightening, let's just talk about the food budget here, Lauryn. So we were talking before the show, folks, that food budget went up a little bit in 2021, and that wasn't the only thing that went up, right? Well, I don't know. Do you want to disclose this, Lauryn?
It is so true. So the best part about budgeting is, like you said, numbers don't lie. Jay-Z said it. It's true. If Jay-Z said it, it must be true. The numbers don't lie. So in 2020, my average monthly food budget was $776. And in 2021, it was $946. So something happened. And in 2020, I was in probably my best retired shape of my life. So I'd gotten my weight down. I was within 7 pounds of my goal weight. Life was going great. In 2021, currently on a 2022 mission to lose all the weight that I gained in 2021. But I mean, to this point, like it's funny, but it's also at the same time sort of like one of those things where we have to kind of govern ourselves accordingly. A lot of people are setting fitness goals at this time or at the beginning of the year. And it's one of those things where if you actually look at what you're spending, if I value saving, I need to spend less. Where do I want to spend less? Maybe I can spend less on food because it's going to have a double benefit. I'm going to be able to now have $200 more a month to put toward my saving, but also I'm going to be making different choices, and I'm going to be in better shape, and I'm going to be eating less food, and less food means I'm skinnier. Skinnier means I'm healthier. That means I spend less money on health things. All these things are intertwined. And I love to always bring that point home as we talk about financial planning and budgeting and all, like everything interacts with one another. And so if you have a fitness goal, it could also be fixing your food budget. That is something that's going to, change and help you be able to reach two goals and for the price of one, if you will.
Right. And I mean, and part of knowing, if you need to make those changes in the food goal, right, is keeping track of those numbers and then tallying it all together and finding out what it's averaging and then comparing the results. And you can see, we can't pretend about our numbers. You've got a note about that here, Lauryn. We can't. Well, what if you thought it was only $800 a month for 2021? So you thought, 2020 was $750 a month, and then 2021, I think it was just $800. So I didn't really actually spend that much more. We're like, well, right, we would be missing out on the opportunity to see that, boy, actually, no, my food bill went up quite a bit. Now, some of that just could be due to inflation, folks. Prices have been going up for everybody. So let's not put this all on Lauryn. It's inflation, right? There you go. We'll give you a little bit of grace. Inflation might have something to do with this.
But that's a good point. Like we do so much justifying or, saying like, well, it was because of this. It was because of that. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we make is pretending about our numbers. We try to fudge them. Even when you have numbers right in front of you, sometimes you're like, well, that was a one-off situation. Well, we bought a house this year. Oh, we had to furnish the house. Oh, well, someone passed away and I spent, a month out of town. Like those things definitely are not necessarily, regular parts of your reoccurring expenses from a budget standpoint, but there's literally always something happening. So we can't not plan for something that's going to happen. And so in my example, last year, I did my estate planning documents. It cost $4,000. It was not something that I had on my overall list of things to do at the beginning of the year. But in light of everything that happened in 2020, I thought it was really important to get those documents updated, everything put in the right place, and everything be, done appropriately. So I went ahead and I spent that money. So I could be like, oh, but that was just a one-off. I don't have to. You're right. I don't have to do estate planning this year, but I guarantee you, if we do this podcast again next year, it's going to be something else. So we need to not pretend about the numbers and the one-off situations, and realize that spending is spending, and that's an important process, or part of the process. There we go.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, there's that void is going to fill up with something in a hurry. I mean, for good or bad, I think as human beings, we're pretty easy. We find ways to spend our money. At least most of us do. And so if you leave it in your pocket for too long, we'll find something to do with it. And so, it looks like estate planning, which is a good goal. I'm glad you spent the money on that, Lauryn, to get that taken care of. Went to that, but that 4,000 is probably not necessarily going to go to savings unless you become very intentional about it and make a point to say, hey, I'm going to go put that to savings now and not spend it to something, because you'll find something else that could spend the money on. Well, what about, you've got another point here about self-care. So, I mean, that's a kind of an important spending goal. Do you feel like you were on target or on track for that?
Hold on one second. I got to go get the charger for the thing back.
Okay.
I was like, I'm gonna lose him.
Oh no, there he goes.
To bring it for me, but he couldn't hear me yelling. I'm like, honey, bring me the charger. All right. So I'll put an X so that the video guy can figure out. Okay, let me catch my breath. All right, go ahead and ask the question over again. Sorry.
Hey, so we're joining us back here again, folks. It looks like we had a small technical difficulty, but thankfully we've gotten Lauryn back on the show. There wouldn't be much of a show without her. So, we've been going over your budget items, and we were kind of curious. So we've spent some money. The things went a little higher than we planned. We saved some money. Thankfully, we saved, but we didn't save maybe as much as you thought. Another thing that you're reviewing here is this notion of self-care. You see how much you've spent on yourself. Do you feel like you did okay there? Was that as much as you wanted it to be, or was too much, too high? How'd that shake out?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the cool things about like kind of looking at this overall process is like 2021 was a rough year overall for me. Like I said, gaining weight. At the end of the year, I had kind of like this health scare, and I was just like, And as I looked over the budget, like I said, I looked at things like, food is up, and this is down, or this is up, or this is down. And self-care was something that I felt like overall was low. I spent like $2,000 on self-care. And you think about that as like a percentage of what came in. You think about that as, you only get oneself. We talk about you only live once. If we only live once, then we got to take care of this body. We got to take care of our mind. We got to take care of our, our fitness, our behavior, our excitement, our mental health, all of those things. And, I decided like, this is probably not a good balance for how I feel like if I'm spending in line with my values, I need to prioritize myself, and I want to be my best self for everyone that I'm interacting with. And so that I probably could do better. And for me, the kind of self-care category, some of the stuff that was in it was massage and nails and acupuncture. I think I could add some additional things there. Like this year I'm trying hypnotist. There we go. Not a hypnotist.
Oh, all right. Have to let us know how that goes for you.
Yes, I will keep you all posted. Last year I tried a transition nutritionist, which is someone who helps athletes in transition, because it's, quite a big change from being an athlete to, going to kind of sitting on your butt and trying to figure out what it means to work out as a normal person. So definitely an area that, like I said, as you kind of analyze things, you may find that, you want to increase spending in some areas, but also decrease in some others. Gas was pretty low for me. I spent $1,100. I work from home, so pretty simple. Tolls were $360 for the whole year. I know people that spend that on a monthly basis because they're going back and forth. And, side note, that may be a reason to negotiate a raise. That's things that we're not thinking about. If we're not looking at our budget and you're spending a lot on gas, a lot on tolls and stuff like that, when it comes time for your annual bonus, it's hey, I'm spending a lot to be here every day. This has not been taken into consideration as part of my compensation. Let me tell you why I deserve a raise, or, that sort of thing. So not to go on a long tangent, but we always need to be looking at all the different areas and aspects of our budget and our finances and just saying constantly, does this align with my values? Does this in line with the worth that I think of what I, should be earning? How can I earn more money? Because that's definitely the option as well. Budgeting is not always about reducing your expenses. It's about saying like, hey, these are my expenses. This is the kind of lifestyle that I want to live. And so you get an option to either decrease expenses or earn more. And earn more is a possibility that we don't talk a lot about. How can I earn more money is a definite conversation that you should be having on a regular basis with yourself, your family members, if you're employed by someone, your employer, so that you can reach your financial goals.
For sure. No, I mean, that's definitely the other side of the equation, isn't it? I mean, it's sometimes we can fix budgeting problems not by tightening that belt, but just putting more money in your pocket. So how can we make that happen? And there's different ways to do that. Maybe you sell something that you didn't need. We've got a bunch of junk in our life or stuff, and I don't really need to hold on to this. Maybe I'll go and have a garage sale and let some money out in that regard. Could be a quick fix. As obviously long term wise, your garage gets pretty empty eventually, so you can't just keep selling. But there's ways to generate cash too as a way to fix shortages that you might have in your budget. But I think overall, like probably the chief takeaway, folks, what we would want you to know and have and in this is that budgeting really is just about awareness. It's about tracking. It's about bringing intentionality to your decisions. And it's about giving you a sense of whether or not you're making progress or not. Because one of the most dissatisfying things we can have in life is to feel like we're just spinning our wheels. We're just going in circles and we're not getting anywhere. And it's just same thing day after day. And like, am I getting where I want to go? Am I on track? Am I in a good way? Budgeting is really one of the key elements, along with financial planning, I might add. But budgeting is one of the key elements to having clarity on that. And the value, the reason why you do it is it brings peace of mind. It gives clarity. It gives awareness. It gives satisfaction. It gives contentment. And you can say, all right, I know where I stand, and if that's in a good way, you can be happy about that. And if it's not in a good way, we can start making a plan to get it in the way it needs to be so that you're satisfied.
Amen. Hallelujah. I don't know that I need to add anything else. I mean, Ben the philosopher shut us down pretty good.
Well, I'm just bringing the hammer, bringing the heat. I was one to get pretty. I was a big debater. You better watch out, Lauryn. I don't know if we want to get into any conversation pieces, but when there was time to hold my ground, I won't give an inch if I feel strongly about it. So
I see a new series being born.
All right, maybe I could actually put this philosophy. You asked, what could a philosopher do? But maybe they start a podcast is what they could do.
Finances and philosophy.
There you go. Yeah.
There it is.
I love it. Yeah, coming from the truck driver near you. So, I've had a lot of time to think about this, folks. A lot of time. Oh, great. Well, Lauryn, it's been good to have me on the show. I mean, do you have anything else that you feel like we should share or end with?
I feel like we did a really good job of kind of breaking it down, wrapping it up. I think, like I said, the biggest thing is that if you are someone who's listening to this podcast and you have not given budgeting a try, what do you have to lose is the question that I would ask you. If year in and year out, you're listening to these various financial podcasts, you're looking at blogs, you're doing all these different things. And the one thing you haven't done is actually implement the budgeting process. What's getting in your way from you actually giving this a try to see if it can help you reach your financial goals? So get out of your own way, create a space for you to be able to reflect and to be able to spend in line with your values and to know where your money is going. You can do it.
Well, that's awesome. Well said, Lauryn. You raised the bar. I love what you had in with. That's perfect. So, folks, it's been a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks for letting me be here, Lauryn. If you ever want me back, just in case, you're always welcome. I'd love to help you out some more on these shows. It's good, so good to help you folks. I hope you're seeing wins and successes in your finances. That's what we're all about, and it's your wins are part of our wins, and it just makes life worth living.
Or worth winning. Whoop, whoop.
Worth winning. Oh, I could have nailed that. There we go. We put it together. Thank you, Lauryn.